Thank you very much. As the 105th Prime Minister, I was mandated to bear the important responsibilities once again. 120 days ago, in the prime ministerial election in the lower house, I received 237 votes. By only 4 votes over a majority for the inauguration, a situation as precarious as walking on thin ice. This time, I was designated Prime Minister under a stable foundation with more than 350 votes. First, I would like to express my deepest and most sincere gratitude to the people of Japan who, in the recent general election, the Takaichi administration, you have given us the mandate with the largest number of seats in the more than 70-year history of the LDP. I am firmly determined to live up to that trust. Bearing deeply in mind the weight of this responsibility, I will listen carefully to a wide range of voices and conduct the administration with humility, yet with boldness. Some people say that by the LDP alone securing more than a 2/3 majority of seats, I have obtained great power, a so to speak blank check. I have absolutely no such intention. As before, I ask for the cooperation of opposition parties that are constructive toward policy realization. I will listen humbly and sincerely to diverse views and put the best possible policies into action. Some even say the Japan Innovation Party is no longer necessary. Last October, following the dissolution of the coalition with Komeito, when the LDP was in a difficult position, they made the significant decision to form a new coalition with the LDP. The relationship of trust with the JIP is unwavering. We will deepen cooperation between the LDP and a JIP toward the realization of pledges in the general election and the policies set forth in the coalition agreement. The ruling parties will unite and shift into an even higher gear. As of today, the Takaichi Cabinet 2.0 begins. About 4 months ago, the members of the Takaichi Cabinet I selected with confidence are all well suited to stand at the forefront of their respective policy field. They are already advancing at full speed toward policy implementation. Upon the launch of the Second Takaichi Cabinet today, I have reappointed all the members. In the recent general election, I believe the public gave us strong encouragement to see through all the costs the major policy shift advocated by our cabinet, including responsible, proactive fiscal policy, fundamental strengthening of national security policy, and enhancement of the government's intelligence capabilities. It was such a strong voice from the public. Make the Japanese archipelago strong and prosperous. Once again, I am keenly aware of and humbled by the magnitude of those expectations. First, in the current Diet session, with regard to the next fiscal year's budget, tax reform bills, and other legislation that must be enacted by the end of this fiscal year, we will, from the perspective that everything is for the peace of mind of people and the construction of robust economy, call for cooperation from opposition parties and work to secure passage as swiftly as possible. At the same time, we will call for cooperation in participating in and holding an early date the bipartisan National Council. To reduce the burden on middle and low-income individuals struggling with tax and social insurance contributions and rising prices, we will advance deliberations and reach a conclusion on the integrated reform of Social Security and taxation, including the institutionalization of refundable tax credit.
And during the period leading up to the introduction of that system as a relief measure, the food and the beverages that are currently subject to reduced tax rate without relying on deficit recovery bonds, and for 2 years only, the consumption tax rate will be 0. And we will expedite discussions on various issues to make that happen, including the schedules and the financial resources. If we can gain cooperation from the members of the opposition parties, we want to put together an interim report and aim for the submission of tax reform bills before summer. The core of the major policy shift of the Takaichi Cabinet is responsible and proactive public finance. When we analyzed the causes behind the low potential growth rate of Japan, what we lack critically compared to other major economies is domestic investment. The government should take a step forward through strategic investment that enhances resilience against potential crises that can minimize various risks, and also through growth investment that can bring advanced technology to full bloom through public and private collaboration. We need to boldly promote investments, and to that end, we need to fundamentally change the approach of the country's budget formation, and we need to secure the predictability for private enterprises and local governments, and also to urge corporate R&D and capital investment. We will enable policy support through multi-year budgets and long-term funds, and we will break away from budget formation based on the assumption of annual supplementary budgets, and to ensure that necessary funding is allocated within the initial budget as much as possible. The fiscal 2026 budget is its first step. We will change the budget formation policy, and this is going to be a major reform that will require about 2 years, that will start in full-fledged from fiscal 2027 budget request this summer. I'm determined to get this job done. As a learning from the Russian aggression over Ukraine, countries are racing to adapt to new modes of warfare and readiness. And Japan will also expedite the revision of the 3 strategic documents to fundamentally reinforce national security policies. We will also work on the enhancement of intelligence capabilities. We will enhance the country's intelligence analysis capabilities to preempt the crisis and to develop a structure to strategically safeguard national interests. To be specific, we will establish a National Intelligence Bureau, and also to establish a committee on foreign investment in Japan, which is a Japanese version of CFIUS, to enhance the national security screening structure or framework regarding foreign investment in Japan. So we will submit those bills this summer. There's no future for a country that stops challenging itself. The 18-year-old young people who voted for the first time this year and the newborn babies, most of them will be able to see the turn of the 22nd century. And I hope that Japan will be safe and prosper at that time as a shining lighthouse of the Indo-Pacific, a country of freedom and democracy, a country that the world can rely upon. And I want Japan to be a country where our young people can feel proud to be born in, and can feel confident to say that the future is bright. For that end, Takaichi Cabinet 2.0 will continue challenging itself, and the revision of the Japanese constitution, the revision of the imperial household law, and the reduction in the number of diet seats. LDP will also continue to challenge itself. Never give up. This is my creed. As a cabinet of determination and advancement, beyond our challenges, at the end of our challenges, I want to realize a strong and a prosperous Japanese archipelago with a future with hope, and we seek understanding and cooperation of our people. Thank you very much. That concludes my opening remarks.
Now we'd like to take questions. First, from the manager, Murakami-san from Tokyo newspaper. Tokyo News Shimbun and Chunichi. My name is Murakami. About the attitude of the cabinet for the deliberations in the Diet. In the lower house, the LDP has the majority overwhelmingly, and you're aiming to conclude the budget discussion in the earlier stage by the end of this fiscal year. However, thorough operation of the Diet is very important for the opposition parties as well. So even though the discussion is shortened, are you really sticking to the idea of the budget formation earlier? And also, are you really motivated for the other things as well, but the deliberation and also respect for the minor opinions? And what do you think about this, and how are you going to implement such an effort? Thank you very much for the question. Everything is for the safe and security of the public, and this is a common thing between the ruling and opposition parties. And as for the policies for the budget formation discussions, we have the board meetings for the budget committee and also the Diet session as well. And we have to make sure that there is no obstacle to the people's lives. We have to consult with the ruling parties, and we ask for cooperation of the opposition parties. 2024 fiscal year budget, and also for the bills that should be decided by the end of this fiscal year. That is something we would like to aim to conclude by the end of this fiscal year. Free education included, and for the new fiscal year, we would like to implement some policies and related bills, including that should be passed by the end of this fiscal year. We would like to make the effort so that we can implement all of them without any obstacle and hindrance to the people's lives. We would like to make an effort. And also consensus building, drastic strengthening of the national security, and that might have divided opinions, but we have to promote that. This is for the safety of people and also national interest. That is the priority for our government. For our challenges, we have to be flexible to tackle. That is something I am very good at as well. So, as I have done in the past, together with the constructive opposition parties for policy making, we have to listen to the voices of people sincerely, and so that we can achieve the best optimized conclusion for the people.
Another question from coordinators, Kyoto Press. Thank you, Prime Minister. Torinari with the Kyoto Press. My question is regarding the consumption tax rate cut. So for food and beverages, you are going to cut the consumption tax rate, and by establishing a national council, and you're also going to call for cooperation from opposition parties. So which specific party are you going to invite? And you want to put together an interim report and submit bills before summer. What is the specific timeline for that? The autumn extraordinary diet session, is that one of the options? And at the end of the day, when are you aiming to achieve the zero consumption tax rate for food and beverages? Thank you for your question. For food and beverage consumption tax rate to become zero, this is a part of LDP's manifesto, and we also stated that the government will work as a whole to make that happen as soon as possible. And before election and during election campaigns, depending on different parties, there are different claims that also became clear. And we also need to think about the burdens on enterprises, the burdens on systems, and also the impact on suppliers, and the timing for the implementation, the financial resources, the impact on the financial market, and also the actual wages. So towards the implementation of this initiative, there are many issues that we need to discuss. That is a fact. However, as the ruling party, as we stated during the election campaign, the zero consumption tax rate for food and beverages, this is part of our core of our policy, the refundable tax credit. This is a bridging measure, a temporary measure before we make that happen. So we are looking at the shift to refundable tax credit. So, as I have said, this consumption tax rate cut is only limited to food and beverages, and also the discussions on refundable tax credit will start in parallel. And for National Council, consumption tax rate is a very important financial resource for Social Security. And in order to realize, and for opposition parties who agree with refundable tax credit, we will invite them to participate in discussions. And we also had quite a lot of discussions before about this system. There were a lot of parties that are for this idea. And myself believe that a lot of people, and I'm also calling people who I believe who are willing to cooperate with this on this idea. And as I stated during the election campaign, I want to cut the tax rate as soon as possible. And in a bipartisan manner at the National Council, we will have discussions to address all of those issues, and including the specific timing, we are going to reach a conclusion at some point. So at this point in time, I will refrain from making a personal opinion on that. But what I can say is that we are not going to waste time on it if we can gain understanding and cooperation from opposition parties. Before summer, we want to have an interim report, and we will make a cabinet approval on the system and to aim for a early submission of the tax reform bills.
For those of you who would like to ask questions, please raise your hand. NHK. Thank you very much, Prime Minister. My name is, I'm from NHK. About the diplomacy, foreign matter, Japan-US top summit meeting, and next month, if everything allows, you are going to have the summit meeting with President Trump. What is the top priority for you as for the agenda? And also, based on the Japan-US agreement about the investment project that was announced by both governments, and implementation of the project, and also critical mineral supply chain included, and economic cooperation and rare earth development in Minami-Torishima Island, including everything I mentioned. So what's the positioning during the visit and during the top summit meeting? Thank you for the question. The coming U.S.-Japan summit meeting, in which I'd like to strengthen the trust relationship with President Trump and national security, economy, and culture in every aspect. I would like to confirm the strengthened Japan-U.S. cooperations. And as you have mentioned, rare earths and critical minerals included, Japan-U.S. economic security should be enforced. That is my very strong will and wish around Minami-Torishima Island and rare earth development and maritime mineral resources development. For that, we'd like to have solid discussions with the United States. Today, the very first project was announced, strategic investment initiative was announced as well. Together with the United States, we'd like to closely cooperate continuously. And also Japan made a proposal, and it has been 10 years, FOIP, Free and Open Indo-Pacific. So Japan and U.S. cooperative commitment for FOIP. Once again, I would like to take this opportunity to reconfirm when President Trump visited Japan the other day, we talked about this. This is a very important point. And in my diplomacy, this is a pillar. So we would like to have concrete discussions on that.
じゃあ京都新聞石田さん。
京都新聞社
Ishida with Kyoto newspaper on foreign-related policies. In recent years, there's an increase in foreigners living in Japan, and there are many issues, and this became one of the contentious points during the election. And to create a local community with the co-living of Japanese and for non-Japanese that was submitted, and how do you position the policies related to foreigners? For foreigners living in Japan and the increase of them, only part of them the laws and regulations in Japan were not abided by, and there is unauthorized use of various systems. So there are situations that are happening where people feel unfair. So for the first time in my cabinet, I set up a minister in charge of foreign-related issues, and the comprehensive measures regarding foreign-related issues have been put together. And this is not xenophobia. This is to secure the safety and the peace of mind of the people, and to have an orderly manner in co-living with foreigners. And this is something that we didn't work on before, and we are going to incorporate a broad range of policies in that. And a lot of foreigners are complying rules, and we need to make sure that the society is not going to be somewhere that is hard for them to live. So for both parties, we need to ensure safety and safety of mind and security, and need to ensure prosperity on both ends. And there are many measures and initiatives related to that as well. The comprehensive measures are quite inclusive and adequate, and we will make sure to implement those measures. And I think that is critical to and conducive for the foreigners that are abiding by the laws, and to create a orderly coexisting society.
Asahi Newspaper. Nishimura from Asahi Newspaper. About constitutional amendment and also amendment of the Imperial Household Act. As was mentioned in the LDP, both House committee meeting, you are calling on the members to tackle this initiative. And when we look at the personnel, for example, the chairman of the lower house, and as was reported, the committee chair of the parliamentary operation, and also rules and administration chief. I really feel your focus, and you were talking about this during the campaign. So after the landslide victory in this diet session, to what extent are you going to proceed about the amendment of the Imperial Household Act and also constitutional amendment? Are you thinking about the starting of the national referendum? Yes. Basically, as for the personal matter of the lower house, basically, this is up to the party. Having said that, as for the amendment of the Imperial Household Act, this is related to the foundation of the nation. This is something we can never postpone. Right now, under the chair people of both houses, there is a discussion going on as for the amendment of the Imperial Household Act. I really hope that the discussion is going to proceed. After the deliberations in the diet session, the government is going to respond based on the discussion. So with expectation, I'd like to watch the discussions. As for the constitutional amendment, as the Prime Minister, in the constitutional review meeting, bipartisan discussions should be accelerated. That's my expectation. And between people, active discussions are deepening. That is my hope as well. And as the LDP president, including the constitutional amendment, that was included in the manifesto of the LDP. So as for the policy challenges, the LDP strongly has to take initiatives for the implementation, and each faction's ideas. Actually, I was a member of the Constitutional Review Committee meeting, and I think the discussions became mature. So we have to organize the discussion points and thinking about the accumulation of the discussions. Well, obtaining agreement as soon as possible, we would like to take the initiative that leads to a national referendum. LDP should tenaciously tackle with this issue.
終わりますので残りあと2問とさせていただきます。じゃあブルームバーグの木田さんお願いします。
ブルームバーグのテル
Terukina Bloomberg. Thank you. On financial policies and communications with the market, on the 16th, the BOJ governor, Mr. Ueda, with his meeting, what did you communicate? And at an earliest, as soon as April, the BOJ may raise the interest rate. And have you shown understanding to that policy? And after the dissolution, the announcement of the dissolution of the party, the long-term yield went up and the prices went down. But now the expenditure is reduced, is controlled, and then the impact is minimized to the market. What's your view on that? So regarding my meeting with the BOJ governor regarding the economy and the financial policies, this was part of the regular interaction and exchange of opinions. And beyond that, regarding the details, I will refrain from disclosing. So BOJ will continue to work closely with the government and economy, prices, and financial situations, not based on a cost push basis, but wage increases and aiming for a stable 2% inflation. The stability of that is something that we expect BOJ to achieve in its policy operation, and we will continue to have close communication with the Bank of Japan, and including currency, the financial market movement. The government always monitors the movement, but in my capacity as Prime Minister, I will not make specific comments. But of course, we always closely monitor the market movement, and based on the thinking of responsible and proactive public finance, we will manage the financial policies, and the balance. The debt balance against the GDP ratio needs to be stably reduced to ensure financial sustainability. That is very critical to ensure market confidence. There's no change to this policy.
一問お受けいたします。じゃあCBC テレビの横地さん。
My name is Yokochi from CBC TV. As you have mentioned, at the beginning you have mentioned as well, and during the campaign, you were talking about this responsible and proactive finance. I'd like to ask you, Aichi, Gifu, Mie areas, 14,000 voters. We had an exit poll with them, and because of the economic situation, the priority should be proactive public finance or fiscal consolidation. What's the priority? That was the question. And well, there were some people who didn't have any supportive parties, independent people. Well, those people who want proactive policies voted for the LDP, but those people who are for financial consolidation, the LDP and opposition parties, they were almost the same for both of them. And for those who asked for a proactive public finance or fiscal consolidation, both, well, actually, the voters voted for both parties. So LDP's proactive public finance, there's a great expectation. However, there are concerns and apprehensions about the public finances as well. And the poll result indicated that that was my interpretation. So Takaichi Cabinet 2.0, how are you going to proceed with the responsible and proactive public finance? Thank you very much for the question. As I mentioned before, the latent growth rate of Japan is slow right now. The growth rate is slow, and that is really a big reason for that. And excessive austerity and the lack of future investment, that should be eliminated. That was my message. It's not the government is spending too much money. The private sector should be in cooperation so that we would like to have strategic investment that enhance resilience against potential crisis and the growth investment to make robust economy of Japan. So we have to have domestic investment that should be strengthened to achieve robust economy. Unless we do that, we cannot secure quality of life for the citizens. So we cannot really wait. And now is the time we have to start. That was my intention. That was why I ran for the election last year as well. So responsible, proactive finance is very important. So strategic investment for resilience against potential crisis and also growth potential. And so investment for that, of course, that's something we have to tackle. And also we have to have balanced budget. That is very important as well. I'm focusing on that 2025 FY supplementary budget. And after that, the JGB issue was less than the previous year. That was important for me. And FY 2026 budget appropriation in the general account of the government, the new JGB issue for 2 years in a row, it should be less than 30 trillion yen. And as for the dependence to JGB, after the financial crisis, this is the lowest level now. We were able to achieve that, and the primary balance became in the black for the first time in 28 years. So what is important for the budget formation for 2026 fiscal year? We can depend on the tax income for the year. So the sustainability of the public finances should be very important for the operation of the economy and the fiscal policies, and I'd like to continue that. So we have to watch the interest rate and the market situation. I'm checking them every day, and based on the foundation of the responsible and proactive finance policy, we are operating this, and we have to reduce the debt per GDP. That is important so that we can gain the trust from the market, and I think we can gain the trust from the markets. I'd like to tell people to be relieved. Unless we achieve a robust economy, we cannot deliver necessary public services. And now is the timing for me to implement that. With this, we would like to conclude the press conference. Please use the document questions later so that we can respond to you later in document. Thank you very much.